Hello, my fellow Alaskans. Hopefully I have all my sound problems cleared up from earlier, and everything should be sounding loud and clear right now. We are at the MatSu Borough building. Do not forget to vote.
Parking lots that has political signs on it, and it's my understanding, and the clerk can correct me, even if the political sign is for a candidate that is not in this election, but so it still needs to be moved. So if you are, if you have, okay, so if you move it 200 feet away from the voting place, or the voting,
You could, yeah, you could do that too.
most of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have the white board?
It's a silver, yeah.
Okay, so we're just about ready to begin. Do not forget this municipal elections are going on right now for city council and mayor. Don't forget to vote if you're in the Wasilla and Palmer area. But we are here tonight at the MatSu Borough building, and it is just about ready to begin. They have the hand counting that is supposed to be voted on here tonight, from my understanding. A couple other issues. I plan on getting up there and talking about our roads here in the MatSu Valley and the streetlights that we have, and just a few little different subjects that are going to be going on here throughout. But it is a jam-packed, busy borough building today with the election going on. So if you're in the Palmer and Wasilla area and you haven't cast your ballot yet for city council or mayor, you need to hurry up and go get that done. You still got a couple hours left before the polls close. Thank you all for being here. Do not forget to like and share. And I really do appreciate all those people that have gone into our website at Politadick.com here in the last few days and have shown your support for what we do. Your contributions go a long ways towards making sure that we can continue to keep doing what we're doing right now and being at more and more places as time goes by. And it looks like Edna is just about ready to gavel in, and it is about that time. Again, if you haven't taken the time to like and share this video yet, please go ahead and do that right now. Like, share this video. More Alaskans we get involved with our political process out there, whether it's assembly, city council, school board meetings. Just like Anchorage is having a school board meeting right now, I would love to be having someone there live streaming it to all of you, so that way we can see it uncut and unfiltered and see the people that are actually testifying and in the room. But again, thank you all for being here again tonight. Like and share. And looks like there's been a gavel on in here.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
You can see where.
Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. This is a regular meeting for the Borough Assembly for Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you take the roll?
I will. Tim Hale. Here. Stephanie Nowers. Here. Dee McKee. Here. Robert Gunn, are you on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Moki Chu.
Here.
Jesse Sumner.
Here.
Assembly Member Bernier, are you on the phone? I am expecting him out of here, but you do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there anything that members would like to pull from the consent agenda? We need more time. All right. So there's no, is there any other changes to the agenda? Something for Sunday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to suggest moving ordinance 22119 to the top of the public hearings. That would make it so all these folks don't have to sit through our entire meeting here to have their say. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there objections to that change in the agenda? Seeing none, then after the special orders, persons to be heard that we don't have anybody, we will open the public hearing for ordinance 22-111. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, we'll start with the public hearing.
22-119 will be the first one.
Yeah. Is there objections to that?
Yeah.
Are there any other changes? We'll let the record show that some interest in there, 604, 603. 603, hearing no other changes, then the agenda is approved. You'll all stand and Mayor Fletcher, could you lead us in the pledge, please? Lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no minutes on our agenda to be approved. The next item on our agenda is agency reports. So I'll recognize you, Amir. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor DeVries, Manager Brown, and Assembly. I'm Brenda Lefton, Mayor for the City of Wasilla. Saturday at the Old Town site, we will have an Autumn Fest from 11 to 3. There will be live demonstrations, there will be workshops for kids. It's a family-friendly event. And at the Menard Center, starting at 6 o'clock Saturday night is the, what is it, just? Anyway, it is the Rotary Uncorked event. Okay. How could you forget that? Anyway, it is a fundraiser for, by the Rotary, and it goes to several charities, and one of them being my house. And that's about all that's happening in the city except election today. So does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Nice to have you here this evening. Is there anyone here from the city of Homer or from the city of Houston? I don't see anyone. Okay, school district, do we have anybody from the school district for the report? No. State of Alaska, let's see, Todd. And Stephanie Nowers, Assembly Person Nowers, has a report from the Joint Assembly meeting with the school board and committee and the assembly member.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a few items, I'll keep it short. One disappointing item was the Wasilla Police Department is short on staff, and so they're having to pull their school resource officers forward temporarily from Colony in Houston. Just an overall staff shortage that we're all facing. The school district gave an update on busing and said they're looking at October 24th as a target date to go to just 1 day a week, that they will not have busing. They've been doing 2 days a week. And then November to be up to full busing. We discussed vehicle safety and traffic around the schools and trying to plan ahead on that so that we have good traffic flow and we don't back up onto roads and make them unsafe. We discussed needed capital improvements as well as the funding for charter schools and just a discussion about how we could potentially plan for and fund that looking down the line 5 to 10 years. There was an update on Seward Meridian. There's been a lot of concerns about that project moving forward. It's a DOT project, and there was, as far as we know, it's on track, but there was discussion about getting folks together with DOT so they can hear straight from the horse's mouth. And I believe there was a date for that to be happening, but I don't have that in my notes if anybody else knows that remembers.
Okay.
At the very least, I know there's a project update online that folks can go to, and if we can get a date, we'll get that information.
October 12th. Any questions, Assembly personnel? Okay, are any public relations reports? Okay, Mr. Brown?
Report tonight.
No report. Mr. Attorney, do you have a report, sir?
I do not.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
The clerk's report is in your red folder. It also contains the joint meeting agenda with the Planning Commission for next Tuesday. And also, I would like to ask the Assembly if they would mind changing the December 6th meeting to December 8th. AML is going on at that time, so I was hoping the Assembly would change that meeting to December 8th.
Can we just do that because I just asked for them to do an objection?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any objection to postponing that meeting?
Or changing it.
And changing it from the 6th of December to the 8th. The 8th would be on a Thursday night instead of a Tuesday. Okay, I don't see any objections.
Thank you, and that is all I had.
Okay. There are no citizens or other correspondence. And then we're ready to read the IM.
IM 22219, informing the Assembly of the electronic submittal of the fiscal year 2024 Human Services Community Matching Grant application through the Department of Health and Social Services Grant Electronic Management System.
Is there any comments from the Assembly on the IM? Okay, hearing none, it is presented. We do not have any persons to be heard. So based upon the change to the agenda, we will now move and have the first public hearing on ordinance 22-119. And Mr. Attorney, are you doing the staff report? Or are you? Okay.
Ordinance 22119, an ordinance amending Title 25, Elections, to require ballots to be counted by hand only, direct that counting happen in precincts, and allow for observation by poll watchers and canvass board observers, all to be effective beginning in 2023. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Sure,
Attorney.
again,
for
staff report. This ordinance is sponsored by Assemblymember Bernier to amend Borough Code to mandate a hand count of all ballots in all borough elections. The objective of this ordinance is to make all changes necessary to the Borough Code to prohibit the use of voting tabulation machines and require a hand count of all ballots at the precincts the night of the elections, and also preserve the flexibility granted to the clerk to conduct an orderly election. These changes direct that for absentee and question voters, the counting can't occur on election night, so that would occur immediately after canvassing in observance of poll watchers should it be present. The rules pertaining to poll watchers aren't being changed. They're being clarified a little bit that poll watchers would be able to see and hear all the counting activities. But as the rules currently stand, it's only one per candidate or group at a time in a precinct location. Under purposes of this ordinance for ballot counting, the absentee, questioned early voting precincts would be counted as one. Well, early voting would be separate because that would be counted night of. But after the canvass board, that would be counted as a separate precinct. As mentioned in the title, these changes would take effect, in the next year, which is 2023. It's because since the November 8th, 2022 election is basically just over a month away, these changes would not apply. That's based on something called the Purcell Doctrine, which is a U.S. Supreme Court case that cautions strongly against making changes to election laws just before an election. So these then would have a delayed effective date to take effect for next year. There's a sectional analysis, section by section, contained in the informational memorandum that goes along with this ordinance to explain what changes are made by section and what the intent and the objective of those changes are.
Questions from the Assembly regarding the staff report? Okay. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And we do have some people that have signed up already to testify, and so what we'd like to do tonight to maybe speed up things is I will read the name of the person that's to testify, and then I'll read the name of the second person so they can either move close to the front or stand close so that they are ready to testify against. So we will be doing that change tonight. So, and then we will be, a number of people have signed up. We will be going through that list first, and then we'll be opening it up to anybody else that wants to testify. I don't know, maybe we have some people online, we'll go to them, and then we'll come back and be sure we got everybody here that has gotten a chance to vote or to testify themselves. So that's going to be the procedure for not only this public hearing, but for all of our public hearings. So Cheryl, and then Rachel, you want to second? Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Kaidan. I'm a resident of this area. And I really encourage you strongly to support this ordinance as written to improve and ensure that we have can have confidence in our voting and election system. Heritage organization has done studies, and Alaska does not, kind of in the middle of the pack, but it does fairly poorly, really, on the in our election system. So having confidence is essential in having good governance. And the last presidential election, there were like over 154 million votes, and the separation was only 21,500. And we have a person in this room who was elected by very close election. So we must have essential, careful counts, and also have observers that can actually see what's going on and hear what's going on. And this ordinance would help assure that those things would be accomplished. So thank you everyone who has been working on this, and I really appreciate Lonnie and people that run, actually do the physical elections for considering this. Thanks, bye.
And then Brian, you're up. Yep. There you are. Okay, thank you, Jen.
Hello, I'm Rachel Allen. I've been watching several of these meetings, and it's become apparent to me that what the people want doesn't really matter. You give them a little bit here, a little bit there, and for example, even people want the machines for this election. It's not that hard. When talking to people, and I've been talking to a lot of people, the common concern is the machines. People simply don't trust them. I'm not going to rehash all the evidence because you've heard it over and over, and it's readily available to go over and look at. One thing I will say though is that the borough elections are relatively small in comparison to the state and federal elections. So my guess is that the electronic machine companies will not touch the algorithms or any other part of the machines during the borough elections, so they can say, see, the machines are reliable, there's no problems. The fact of the matter is the people want the machines gone. I pray you will finally vote to do the will of the people, and I want to end with this. Be a leader, a maverick. Stand alone if you have to for what is right. John Adams stood before the Continental Congress in 1776. He neither looked right or left to see who would vote with him. But after praying, he voted for the Declaration of Independence because it was good and right. I would prefer you guys lead us. If you cannot, follow us. If you cannot, then get out of our way. Remove the machines once and for all. Thank you.
Richard, you're after Brian.
Brian, thank you for hearing me tonight. I want to specifically thank Ron Veneer for bringing this ordinance forward and allowing our group to have some input and participation in this. I like this ordinance as it is. It has three points of transparency that we wanted. One, it gets rid of the voting machines. 2, it gives us a hand count at the precinct level. 3, it gives us candidate representatives that can see and hear what goes on. I read this ordinance over a number of times, and we've looked over it with a fine-tooth comb, and we like it as it is. So please vote for this ordinance as is. This ordinance has been well, I should say, advertised, both by the borough, as it should be, and also by other people such as myself, who push Facebook pushes and emails and everything. So I don't think there's a need to delay this one. That's it. Thank you.
Jackie, you're up.
I'm Richard Stoffel, and I'm just going to kind of reiterate some of what the attorney said and other lady. And I'm thankful for this ordinance. I do encourage you to pass it. But on November 8th, this ordinance, as you know, is not going to be effective for November 8th. So we still have the machines, but we have the hand count after the machines. I don't know why we have machines, but I call them, actually, I'm starting to call them computers, because that makes it more clear of what they do, and we cannot trust a computer to count our votes. And then the ordinance, it does start on the first of the year, and it does take away the computers, and there's a hand count in the precincts, which is good. And we have poll watchers, and we have candidates from representative watching, and the count is done in 24 hours. Those are all good. What we don't have, though, is effective serial numbers on the ballot. There's a serial number, but then it gets torn off the ballot, so it doesn't go with it. And the cameras aren't mandated. But I do encourage you to pass it as it is.
My name is Jackie Goforth. Thank you for listening to me. I too would like this ordinance passed, and the new reason is because last Thursday it came out that the Dominion in Tennessee and in Georgia, during the close of the October 2021 local election, poll workers noticed something was wrong. 330 paper ballots were removed from the tabulators, but the machine only gave them a count of 98. 232 ballots were unaccounted for. So the state of Tennessee and 2 accredited entities that test voting machines investigated the anomaly, and they found out that a security error would show QR code signature mismatch, and the warning message, ballot format or ID was unrecognizable, caused 7 scanners to miscount hundreds of ballots in Williamson County. What happens is, as soon as the error showed up, it wouldn't count the ballot that was there, or any of them following that, until somebody reset the machine. So, the election oversight group in Georgia put in a information request for the Georgia, of the 66 Georgia counties. They wanted to know how many in 2020 had that same QR code signature mismatch, and it came out that 64 of them did. And here's that one. Sorry. In DeKalb County, approximately 2,800 ballots had been scanned, but they were not included in the tabulated results. They all were sent to the, I can't remember the file. In Gwinnett County, 2020 election, approximately 1,600 ballots were scanned, but they weren't in the tabulated results. And in Floyd County, the hand count found 2,800 ballots that were scanned, but they were not included. They go into Dominion's voter file that's an anomaly that the supervisor gets to open up. And if you haven't looked at the news lately, this just came out of Michigan. A volunteer election worker in Michigan has been charged with 2 felony charges after inserting a personal USB drive into a precinct computer during the August 2nd primary. Kent County Prosecutor Chris Becker announced he charged James Donald Tolobor with falsifying election records and using a computer to commit a crime in the incident. These are all things that you can look up. These machines don't just count. They can be changed and altered by absolutely anyone, and even with a thumb drive. And if you listened to me 2 weeks ago when I spoke to you about the errors that they found with the Dominion machine that was contacting the Canadian Conic company out of Michigan, and they were contacting the computer in China. They found 1.8 million poll workers' data on that site. 1.8 million poll workers' data. Children, schools, jobs, social security numbers. It sounds like blackmail. So if anybody can change this machine, we have to remove them. Thank you. And then Joel Sigmund.
Good evening, my name is Cindy Hudgens and I live here in Palmer. First off, I want to thank everybody for this ordinance. This is something that, there's so many people have spoken about this and shared their concerns about the machines. We don't trust them. We know they can be hacked. We know that they do not offer us a fair and free election with integrity. So thank you for putting this forward and for putting it out there. And I am definitely for this ordinance, as you can see. So that's just all I wanted to say. Have a good evening.
Michael Garhart is after Joel.
Yeah, my name is Joel Sigmund, and by the way, on the 2020 election, the Democratic states went ahead and changed all the voting things during the election time, and that's wrong. Now, saying we can't do it, take and have it to where it's only done by hand count is a bunch of BS when they can do it in the 2020 election. Just like Lisa Murkowski sitting there certifying Alaska when it was never counted. That's a bunch of BS. Those machines cannot be trusted. We all know that. And for you guys to sit there and want them, any one of you who want them machines should have to step up and find yourself another job, because you shouldn't be up there, because you're supposed to be working for the people, not to fill your own pockets up. So if you can't work for the people, step down, get out of the way, let somebody's gonna do the job right do it. And that's the way I feel about it, because I'm tired of this crooked election. We know 2020 was stolen. And that's a fact.
My name is Michael Garhart. I live in Wasilla. I worked 3 elections, and the last presidential election, it was an anomaly, a couple of them. They gave us the felt tip pens for one. Then almost every ballot got kicked back out of the Dominion machine. You were falling on the floor, you either had to pick them up or you had to stop them from falling on the floor, submit them again. That didn't happen on the previous 2 elections. So there was something wrong. I haven't trusted an election since with the Dominion machines, and I never will. We need to get rid of them. So this is a good ordinance. It's in the right direction. We need to keep going in the right direction. And something that would save us time is if all of you take notes. The last time I was here, we had a discussion about a different ordinance that was going to use the Dominion machine and the hand count. Almost everybody spoke out against the Dominion machine. Take notes, make check marks, count them up. We got a second meeting, we all have to drive 25, 30 miles to come in here again. Just start keeping track. It'll save us a lot of time, but this is a good ordinance, so I'm for it.
Good evening. Could I pass this up to Susan?
Yes, give it to the clerk, please.
Thank you. I printed those out for Karen was LAWS. I printed those out for you because it pertains to some of the information that I'm reading tonight, and it's about the Dominion machines and forensic analysis on it. And it says a new expert report analyzing the computer hard drive on a Dominion voting systems machine in Mesa County, Colorado, concludes that during the 2020 general and 2021 municipal elections, a critical security failure occurred, allowing unauthorized databases to be created and populated with ballots that cannot be verified.
The bombshell report, authored by cyber experts Jeffrey O'Donnell, Chief Information Officer at Ordos Analytics, and Walter C. Dougherty, Senior Lecturer Emeritus at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Texas A&M University, found that the unauthorized activity occurred after counting of ballots in those elections had already begun, and that it was committed by unknown actors outside the office of the Mesa County Clerk and Recorder. Wow. The findings are based on forensic examination and analysis of the election machine server images commissioned by County Clerk and Recorder Tina Peters. Where did she get in trouble for taking images before they were erased? Peters had the images of the machine hard drive made in May 2021, just before the Dominion voting systems, under the direction of Democrat Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, eradicated election data from the drive in what Griswold dubbed the trusted build. Other findings from the forensic examination of the Mesa County hard drive were set forth in 2 earlier reports. Those reports concluded that the trusted build by Griswold and Dominion permanently destroyed over 29,000 files from the hard drive, which were required to be maintained for at least 2 years under state and federal law. They also found that the Dominion voting machine was illegally embedded with 36 wireless devices, which could enable cell phones and other external computers to access the machine and alter the election results. Despite what I gave you is like pictures. It's very, I like the way they explained it, so I took screenshots and put them together so you can see exactly what they're talking about, how they created a false database and took some and left some, and it's just ridiculous what they did. But that's just one state. I also have this information too. I'd like to give one to Lonnie to have it copied for you too, because this is about also Arizona, Wisconsin, and one other state. And it's got information. Also in the back, the last page, you can go to that. It's a website. It's 87 pages of this study. Every bit of it. It's just detail. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate this more than you can understand. It's important to us to have fair elections. Thank you. Thank you.
So I don't have anybody signed up for after John, so just somebody go ahead and stand up, and 2 or 3 of you stand there in the aisle, and then so we can take along, please. John, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Assembly, and particularly thank you, Ron, for bringing this ordinance to us, and Dee for getting the ball rolling. I support this ordinance the way it's written also. And if there's any way to convey the sentiments of the public out there, I would like to try to do that. I've been asking people if they would be interested in signing up to do a hand count. And people were very eager to do that. And I don't go to Fred Meyer's or Carr's and wait outside to get people to do that. I work, every day. So I've been going to some political forums and debates, and like I said, people are eager to sign up to count ballots. I'm not telling them they're going to get paid for it. I'm not telling them, I'm telling it's going to be from 8 o'clock till midnight possibly, or longer. But even still, they're anxious to do it because they don't trust these voting machines. And basically, I think the big concern is, what do we have to hide? I mean, why can't this whole process be done in the open for everybody to witness, to everybody to see? From the gathering of the ballots, to the absentee ballots, to the early votes, let's make it available to everybody so they can all have confidence in this election. So this is the 3rd sheet that I've given the clerk. I think right now there's over 100 signatures. I hope you can use it. I got another list started too, so that isn't all of them. Anyway, the people's sentiment is that they really want this ordinance to pass. They want to get rid of the voting machines, and they're more than willing to help and support for a hand count. So thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for having this assembly here tonight. I've been a resident out here for more than 40 years. In the old days, we used to feel disenfranchised at the end of the national election because they already knew who won. We sat around here being miserable for days talking about we couldn't do anything about it. We have a chance to do something about it right now. We need to do something about it right now. Because ever since those days I'm talking about, where we did hand ballots, they were developing these machines. They were developing these machines by various interests, government and otherwise. And I'd like to bring the notion forward that they have been generated from a systematic approach called scorecard and hammer that was made to change the votes through software and machines. I'd like to see us go back to paper ballots, use something like Joe Van Pulitzer's cheat-proof holographic paper and serialized with cameras, although I support this ordinance as written completely as a very good start to undoing what has become a great challenge to understand why our vote doesn't count either 40 years ago or right now. I thank you very much.
Sir, can I go back to the mic and state your name, please, for the record?
My name is John Leto, Lettow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Sherry Wilson. I live here in the valley for over 40 years. I'd like to thank each of you for your service. As a retired engineering data specialist for the oil industry for most of my career, I'd just like to give some foundational information about identifying error in any kind of data. I think we know that these Dominion machines have been used to do criminal things, but I'm a machine person, so I trust the machines more than I do people, because machines don't cheat, people cheat. Just some foundational information about doing counts. The largest publishing firms in the U.S., when they employ 7 proofreaders on books, they are guaranteed a 3% error. And that's with 7 sets of eyes reviewing documents. So if we want to have a more accurate count on our votes, we should at least, at a minimum, utilize the strongest structure we know, which is like a 3-legged stool or a 3-sided pyramid. That means 3 independent ways in which we count the vote. So the first way we count the vote is when the voter goes in and they register. So we have to sign the registration book. We have to identify ourselves and then sign the book. Then we vote. Then the second account occurs with the machine currently. So any machine that does nothing more than tick a count would be important. Then the third way, an independent way, would be the hand count, a visual count. And with that, with 3 separate ways of counting, we're at a minimum guaranteed a 3% error in that count. So I just want people to be aware of simply having a single person count on votes doesn't necessarily guarantee accuracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. While John's coming, let me just remind everybody you only get to testify once, okay?
I have another one too, but I'll wait. Good evening, Assembly members, Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to come up and provide some information for you. A couple of weeks back, my name is Thomas John Nelson. I'm a financial advisor, born and raised in Alaska. I challenged everybody here up on the Assembly to go get the Chewbacca report, and I would like to see a hand of how many people actually went and read it. Let the record show nobody has. I have presented you with a copy of the Chewbacca report that was written by Kelly Chewbacca in July of 2020 for the executive branch. This was written by the Department of Administration as a record for the recommendations to fix the election. It's a 38 some odd page report that should be a public document open to all. As we open it up, in the summary, it shows the redacted version of the Chewbacca report. And all of the recommendations, every single one of them, are redacted out. All of them. Every single one of them. What do you got to hide? Yep. We do not trust our election system. It's broken. It's a system. If you have a system, let's call it a car, and the wheel is loose, you fix the wheel. Oh, but that's just an anomaly. Oh, but the spark plug's missing. That's just an anomaly. Oh, somebody put a little bit of sugar in the gas. That's just an anomaly. There's no fraud here because nobody's looking for fraud. Me and a team of a bunch of other people have spent over 1,000 hours looking at the data, and every time we look around, we see anomaly after anomaly after anomaly. And they're covering it up. I have some recommendations. Here's my recommendations. Regarding the use of voting machines used to tabulate the elections in the MatSu Borough, the following is my recommendations to remove the electronic voting machines, and let the record be shown I've redacted every single piece out of that. We do not trust the voting machines. Go back to paper. That's a simple system that we can have eyes on and that we can control. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Kim Barr. No one's really mentioned the amount of money that we are paying for these machines. I think we should not use these machines, use this money. How about if we pay the police department a little bit more in Wasilla and get them a few more police officers? How about if we pay some more money and get some more bus drivers? You mentioned those items early on, and I think the people that live in this town and this borough would like to see those things happen instead of wasting our money on something that's broken and isn't working and nobody wants. So please, consider it as a parent, a grandparent, somebody who lives here. We want the things that are important to us. We want to be able to vote. We want to make sure it's legal, legitimate, and we want to take this money and use it for something good. Thank you.
My name is Will Barron. I was born here in Palmer. I'd like to thank everyone tonight here for listening to us. I fully support this ordinance as written. As a longtime Alaskan, I'd like to say that I'm very proud to have been born here in Palmer. I think Alaska, particularly the MatSu Borough, is one of the best places left in the country. I think there's a lot of patriotic people here. I think what we do here matters. Personally, I feel more and more like government is something that's happening to us, not by us or for us. And I feel like if you can't listen to the people here, are they going to listen to us 1,000 miles away, 3,000 miles away? There's a lot of back and forth on the Dominion machines. Are they fraudulent? Are they not fraudulent? we could probably fill days of testimony back and forth on that process, but the reality is, there's a lot of people asking you to just listen, to just go back to doing hand count and get rid of the Dominion machine. I don't want the machine. I don't trust the machine. I don't want one fair election cycle with the machine in our area, our small area, to echo someone else what they said, to be used as verification that it can be used in some other fraudulent place down the road. Well, look at Alaska. It was successfully used up there, so it's fine. So based on that, I just think we need to get rid of the machines. More importantly, I'm losing confidence in politicians and politics in general. John, I don't know him. He struck me last time. I was the first time to one of these, listening to him speak, and he was one of the speakers. I went, wow, he's talking. He's got something to say. I'm going to listen. He asked if you guys read his recommendation. Not a single hand rose. I appreciate your honesty, but if he struck me as credible, why didn't he strike you as credible? I mean, I would want to find out, what is John talking about? Is he crazy? Is he right? Is he listening to the tinfoil hat guys? You got people pleading with you. Listen to us, please. We're not crazy. We work hard. We pay taxes. We just want to pass it on to our kids. And I feel like we're out of touch. I feel like politics in our country is just on a crazy train going over a cliff. And the old adage is, well, go local. Your guys are local. This is as local as we can get. Please, let's start here. Let's send a message to the rest of the country. Let's get rid of Dominion. Maybe that's a spark and people go back and reevaluate a lot of things. Because when you look at the way Dominion works, you get one error, it goes to adjudication. Adjudication means one person now can start deciding a lot of votes. With ranked choice selection, a lot of times we don't want to vote 3, 4 tickets down, we vote 1 ticket. Does that strike adjudication? Could it be set to be adjudication? I know people in the last election cycle that the machine wouldn't take their vote because they only voted for one, they only circled one thing. So please, pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Hansen. I've lived in the Valley since '92, and this is the only event that I've ever come to testify for, was voting. I should have gone here many other times and be active. I very much appreciate what Lonnie does, and I do not fully understand how much labor it takes and money to do the vote, but I do not think this is a place where we need to save money. I look at our property taxes and how much we spend on education and how poor the kids are actually doing, bang for the buck. But I think that in terms of what you guys are deciding upon, our votes should not be something where we're really nitpicking on saving money. Maybe Lonnie needs to hire a larger staff for voting, but I think spending money on this is almost the most important thing our money can be spent on, is good and fair votes. And I imagine that we could figure out how to do it efficiently, and in the beginning, it's gonna be difficult. I do work for General Dynamics. I work in an area where they have cyber groups looking for terrorism and espionage. And I'm positive, and I also know John Roberts, who used to work for Anchorage City, he was the IT director, that you guys do not have the staff to properly vet and say that those systems are secure. You don't have that. That would be a lot of money. And so I just encourage you guys, let's keep it simple and work from there. And it's okay to spend money. You have my approval. And thank you for all that you've done.
Good evening. Thank you for enduring the public. That is your job. My name is Dave Maxwell. I'm from Palmer. And I think I've said it many times. I'm a whistleblower in the state of Alaska. I think it's worthy of saying that because I'm a truth teller. And I don't care if retaliation comes. And it did. So I'll stop there with that. It was a little while ago. Mike Dunleavy was in a meeting, EMAC meeting, and I quoted a article from Bob Byrd, who's the Independent Party president. His article was in the Watchman, and it said, the title, "Why Don't People Trust the Government?" That's all I needed to say in that orientation when I was talking to Mike publicly. I said, Mike, the reason they don't trust the government anymore is because people like you lie. Well, Mike Dunleavy had lied to me 2 years prior, promising me a meeting about that whistleblower, that thing I went through. And he never gave me that meeting until that day. Then he said, oh, I'll call you today. And he did. He fulfilled his mission. But here's the point. The point is that people have addressed you a number of times. You're the government. We're the citizens. This is a constitutional republic. If we can't trust you by our requests over and over and over again, then what do you propose the next article will be titled? Why can't we trust our government? I challenge you, please allow us to trust you by responding to us and getting rid of these machines. Thank you.
Other people who want to testify, you start lining up.
Good evening, my name is Daniel Sense, and I support this resolution wholeheartedly. Somebody else stole my thunder, and he said it well. There should be no cost associated with securing an election. Whatever it takes to get an accurate election, everything else is dependent upon that. If our elections are cost prohibited, or if the security of election is cost prohibited, then we haven't got a republic. So everything costs money, but to even consider the cost associated with securing an election is wrong thinking in my part. So I just want to say that I support the resolution. The citizens of this valley are going in the right direction, and we believe that you will too. Thank you.
Can't trust a bunch of liars.
Good evening. I'm Tom Braun, and I want to thank all of you for doing what you do. And thank Ron Bernier for bringing this forward. Now, at the end of the last Borough Council meeting, Assemblyman Yunt expressed a view that since we've already spent $72,000 to pay for the November election voting machines, then maybe it would be less wasteful to just use them this last time. I hope I remember that accurately, Assemblyman Yunt. Here's my 2 cents. Spending $72,000 to use the voting machines in November probably didn't seem like a mistake at the time. I don't believe any of the council was trying to make a mistake, but it's done. With all respect to Assemblyman Yunt and the entire council, there are times to cut your losses and run. I believe this is one of them. I want to call it spilled milk. It's gone. So what? I believe vote security is worth far more than $72,000.
Yeah.
I have an illustration. In 1970, after quitting smoking for a year, I inadvertently walked out of a candy store with a brand new 75-cent pack of cigarettes, which is conditioned reflex. I realized after the door closed behind me what I had subconsciously done. I thought, well, I already bought them, so I might as well smoke them. 14 years later, in 1984, my hacking and cutting urged me to finally quit forever. 14 years of mistake continued with rising cost of cigarettes until I couldn't stand this slow death anymore. In that time, I'll bet I bought $30,000 of cigarettes. Boy, was I stupid, but it's done. I say we didn't lose $72,000. We just need to discontinue a bad option. If I could possibly give that money back right now to you guys, get you guys off the hook, I would. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what voters will say. Nothing is perfect. Today, I believe most voters want security more than that money. And if it helps you decide, I would not vote for anybody who votes to use the voting machines again. Please, come what may, burn the machines, take the hit, and for that I would say thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Steve Renner, and 45 years here in the valley. I love the valley. I'm going to call it my home for the rest of my life. And I thank you folks up there for taking the time to listen to us. As I listen to this audience, I have to ask the question, why? Why are these, and I'm going to call them patriots. These are patriots right behind me because they gave up the comfort of their home tonight to come out here and express their concern. Why? I feel it's the issues that these people, myself included, have to deal with in our daily lives. Okay, and these issues, to read a few, are the crime in our communities. We've got a drug explosion going on, and we're coming into Halloween, and we're going to be dealing with fentanyl tablets that look like candy. Okay, and down the list, we've got the price of fuel to heat our homes, to keep our jobs running, going through the roof. This is encroaching big time in the basics of life, food, shelter, and clothing. Inflation is running rampant. It is going to hurt big time this year. We've only seen the beginning of it. We also have a few other issues. We have a failing education system that is no longer an education system, but more so an indoctrination system. The next generation is going to pay for this. And we're already seeing it because we're also dealing with another issue that the judges have been handing down to us. And that is our kids nowadays, a lot of them are having problems figuring out whether they're male or female or which bathroom to go in. And we also know our daughters aren't safe. I'm sorry to have to put it that way. I have no daughters. I have 9 granddaughters. Okay, so my issue is this. That's why we're here tonight. And election integrity is to a constitutional republic is like blood is to the flesh of the human body. Without them, they die. Okay, so what we're here tonight to talk about is a very, very important issue of returning trust into the electoral process, election integrity. And if we take a moment tonight to reflect on the consequences of that not happening, let's think about those people over in Iran tonight that are fighting for their very lives for the principles that we take for granted. They bleed red blood, they hurt, they have families, and they're laying their lives on the line for election integrity. And so I ask, listen to these patriots, and let's move forward in the right direction.
Good evening. My name is David Eastman. I'm here to testify in support of the ordinance. But I'm also here to tell you that passing this ordinance will not solve the problem. Sure, it'll make cheating a little bit harder, which I think is a good thing, and it should be harder still. But the reason I'm here, and I think many others are concerned, and if you're watching it online or here tonight, is because we as a community have moved beyond the Dominion voting machines. And changing vendors isn't going to solve the problem because we have moved beyond a philosophy of elections which can be summarized as just trust us. That is in the past. I don't believe we'll ever go back there. We have watched in other states, most recently in Georgia, where after many, many repeated assurances that some of the errors in their Dominion voting machines were one-time errors, were not actually as widespread as was thought. Just this last week, I was reading about what's called the Tennessee error, which requires that well, basically, it requires that Dominion voting machines in not just Tennessee, but also in Georgia, be examined and gone back and looked at the errors which are being generated, which they can't explain, but after denying freedom of records requests in many counties. Well, they were finally able now, almost 2 years later, to get the data. Turns out that the errors that they found in Tennessee were also present in 97% of the counties in Georgia from which data was available. They were told trust us, and it was proven that those individuals could not be trusted. I don't think you can find a single person, no matter how popular they are, no matter if they're sitting in one of the seats right now, no matter if they're an elected official, who we can turn over our elections to, and then the public will be satisfied with just trusting that person. That is not the issue. The issue is one of respect. It's that the public be able to ask questions, like that redacted report we were just talking about. The legislatures asked for that as well. We also were told, just trust us. You don't need to know what's in it. Some legislators were offered, well, as long as you don't tell anybody what's in it, we'll tell you what's in it. That doesn't fly in a democracy. That doesn't fly in a constitutional republic. That doesn't fly in the MatSu here in 2022. Maybe it did in a prior year, but I can tell you, it does not fly now. There will need to be other changes after this ordinance is passed, so that we, as members of the public, on behalf of my family, can know that the process is sound. It is strong, it is accurate, it has integrity. Just trust us isn't going to work. We need to be able to ask our questions, we need to get timely answers. And if we cannot have that level of respect, then solving this ordinance, again, will not solve that problem. Thank you.
I'm Susan Kay. I'm a lifelong Alaskan. Been a long time since I've been in this chamber. I am not in favor of the ordinance. I've worked in many capacities in polling places in all the different ways that Gretchen Bar would let me. And I can tell you with very certainty that the last election, the very last election, I was a poll watcher at that point because I think that's really important. So I have served in that capacity, and I take offense when probably none was intended. That's bad on me. But I believe what we did was good, honorable, and accurate, and correct. And there were about somebody didn't know if they had already voted. And we could look that up. Yeah, you did turn it in. They were confused. And sometimes we do get confused. And I'm not going to throw out, make a big deal because she came in and honestly asked, and our back channel checks worked. And so I'm not here to argue. I just wanted to let you know that I served in the capacity, and I feel like we did a good job and that the results were accurate and true from the people who voted. But my concern about having an oversight or an attitude, I think somebody just said we've moved on from Dominion, whatever that on is if we're looking at through ugly eyes, that's not where I'm at. I didn't go there with you. It's hard to say we're all beyond Dominion. Because I don't know if I'm on beyond Dominion. And it's okay if we get rid of. My question to the board, to the assembly, is if we're going to go to hand counting, I will tell you I have perfect testimony that you could take a hand count how many people in this room have volunteered to serve in this borough in a capacity on election day or handing out anything. It's hard to get anybody to volunteer, and we're paid, I don't know, $10 or whatever it is, but we're paid to go and help in the poll places. There isn't enough people in this room to count the ballots. In my district, that we only vote 7%. I'm all worried, how are we going to vote for 10,000 votes in my district? Well, nobody goes to vote, so how hard is it to count to 2,000? But people here need to understand when you vote, you put it in the machine, it's locked. I can't get into that machine. we can push a button, it can tell us how many people voted in and who they voted for. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lloyd Thurman. Appreciate the mayor, assembly members. Thank you for bringing the things up, the resolutions, and also even the ordinance and everything else here. We've been over this stuff so many times. I'm about ready to bring a cot in because it's make this another place to be able to stay at. So we thank you very much for your long bearance and stuff. But we've gone over it so many times. I'm getting competition in the back of the room. We've been over this so many times. We've shown how much fraud that there is. It is all over the place. I'm not a spring chicken. You know, I didn't get these gray hairs for nothing. So it's been going on for years and years and decades. The fraud has. The only situation that's arisen so much is in 2020, Trump shows the fraud that has been going on and the blatantness of that fraud. The outrageousness. How do you win? How does a president win whenever all he does is sits in a basement and the crews that he has is just an empty few, when the other one has thousands and thousands showing up? This is just outrageous. And then the people that are computer experts are saying, man, the fraud, where it has gone, the information going back to China and everything else, and we presented that over and over. The bottom line is, no, we're not going to have that information going to China from here in our little borough. But the portion is, this can be a starting point right here that can begin to change the whole country. And you have that opportunity. I mean, we could get rid of these machines. People say they trust the machine, excuse me, I'm not talking to Mike. People say they trust the machines, yeah. But if you put garbage in, garbage out, and you have a computer who can change it and alter it, you're going to get garbage out. And that's what we're getting, is garbage out. And it's been proven over and over. If France can do it for 70 million people of a hand count, we can do it here in our little bitty borough without any problem whatsoever. The reason why that we are in the mess that we are in, nationally, all across the board, within our state and everything else, is because these machines and everything else have been altering our votes. You only have to squeeze it just a little bit so that one candidate wins over the other. And by doing this, you cheat and you put the people in that you want that have liberal mentalities, socialistic concepts, and basically who have no love of our nation and really want to destroy it. And that's the reason we have been fraud, we have been cheated, and what we don't understand is that we are at war with China. This is an information war. It's not so much with bullets, it's ideologies. That we are in a war, and we don't even understand we are at war. This is a fight for our nation, and it's close to being able to lose it. I ask you two different points here. Reagan said, oh, I trust. He says, yeah, I trust you, but I'm also going to verify. But the portion is, we've already seen enough proof here. The last point is, we have simplified this so much. Just pass it, is what it is. I mean, if you don't, I won't say what my sentiments are about you, but I mean, this is as simple as it can get. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. My name is Joel Fuller, 1500 North Landmark, Palmer, Alaska. I want to also stand here in support of the ordinance. At some point, when you go back to machines, an individual machine that is by itself and has data taken off it by the poll workers, and the actual paper ballots are inside of it, probably would not end up being an issue because everything can be verified easily. But right now, there is no trust in the system. I think we need to get away from it, take the break, come back to it at some other point with a different type of a voting system, but not the whole internet tied in voting. I just would support the paper counting of ballots, and you can compare them to, in the future, like I said, we can pull them out and compare them and run enough ballot sets that you find out that it is not a problem with the machines themselves, but the collation and the correlation of one machine to another in the whole system. But at this time, I would say we need to support the public and reassure them by doing the paper count. Thank you.
Hey there, my name is Christopher Kirka from Wasilla, for those of you who don't know me. I'd like to remind the Assembly for the moment to think back about one of the incredible bedrocks of our free society, of our civilization. That we have this principle's value for a peaceful transition of power that is based on a public confidence in the integrity of our election system, our election process. I've been engaged in politics pretty much my whole life, since I was a young teenager, over 20 years. And I've never seen such distrust in the integrity of our election system. So regardless of whether you believe 2020 was hacked, whether it was fraud, the principle, the safety we have, that the public has confidence in our election system is gone. And it's not a partisan issue. For many, many years, those on the left have been raising their voices in great concern with voting machines because it's been demonstrated they can be hacked. It's been demonstrated again and again and again. And we are at a dangerous place in our nation. Because when members of the public stop believing, regardless of the outcome, that their vote is not going to be counted fairly or accurately, the first tendency is to not be engaged anymore in the public peaceful process. And the second tendency is when there is conflict, when there's a problem, instead of pursuing the peaceful means we have to do it through the public process, the tendency, the temptation is going to move towards violence. And that is a scary direction, and that is a scary world we need to avoid. We must preserve the peaceful transition of power that we have in this nation, in this community. And that is done, as a bedrock of that, there has to be confidence in the cleanness of our elections, in the integrity of our elections. This measure before you, I don't think goes nearly far enough, but it's a step in the right direction. Having a clear, transparent process for counting and being done at the precinct level avoids the accusation of fraud at a central location, makes it even harder to commit fraud because now you have to corrupt all the precincts. It's far less likely. We cannot be too careful. Like I said, it's a bipartisan issue. Right now, a majority of Republicans believe 2020 was stolen, and a massive portion of Democrats. It is a bipartisan issue. To that extent, I also have a petition here with me asking not only the Borough Assembly, but the legislature to do away with these Dominion voting machines and go to a hand count at the precinct level. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Kathy Harris from Wasilla, and I just want to thank you, all Assembly members, Mayor, Manager, for hearing our comments tonight. I'm going to reiterate what I said several months ago regarding the voter turnout, how low it is. As citizens, we pay our taxes, and we pay them heavily. What if the borough only got 7 to 9% of our taxpayer money? I think that the borough would be doing something about that. We should do something about the 7 to 9% voter turnout, or 10%, or 4%, whichever election it happens to be. We as the voters care about our community and our borough. We care about integrity, and we care about our freedoms. And I know that all of you do too. So the example I'm going to use, I've used before. The human heart at 25% can last maybe 6 to 12 months, depending on the condition. You have a code blue here in the borough. It is dying as far as representation is concerned because they have lost trust And we have a great opportunity to reinstate that trust by going back to tried and true methods. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Steve Simmons. I was a 20-year resident of the MSM Valley. I've been traveling the world. I ended up in Pennsylvania for a few years, and I got involved in politics down there, or at least the process. I managed to escape first before the 2020 election because I wanted to come back to Alaska. I wanted my vote to count, and I'm in Anchorage now. And I'm not so sure. I'm just like, what the hell? After the previous election with the drop box only, I was just stunned. And I'm losing my faith in the system. I keep in touch with my legislative representative in Pennsylvania just to find out what's going on. There was multiple cases of fraud. They did investigations. There were convictions. There were laws written to correct the issues. I still don't trust them to do the right thing because they want to keep their state blue after that hard fight to turn for Trump in 2016. So that's all I have to say. I'm losing my faith in the system. I really hope that you take the initiative to put the count back so we can begin to build trust in it again. So I endorse this what is it, resolution? Ordinance, as it's written. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to testify? Caleb, do we have people? We do not have anybody online. Okay. So one last chance. Anyone that hasn't had a chance to testify that would like to? Seeing no one, so nobody online, okay, close the public hearing, and the assembly person here, would you please move the legislation?
I'd like to introduce ordinance 22-119 and speak to it.
Go ahead.
I'm bringing forth this legislation from my constituency District 7, as well as many other concerned citizens of the borough. This has been the strongest issue in my short time here. I was elected by the people, and I am their voice. They need to be heard, and their will must be given considerable respect and recognition. I have talked with many people, doctors, pastors, first responders, parents, fellow blue-collar workers, and they all give me the same answer, over and over. They don't have any faith in the machines or the elections. I've asked my fellow assembly members to pass this legislation as written. Let's do the will of the people.
Discussion by the assembly? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Bernier, I was just wondering on page 4 of 6, where it talks about if it's a hand count precinct, that the votes would be delivered, the ballots would be delivered in containers within 24 hours. That seems like a lot of time. I don't know what it actually is now. It seems like that's a little risky. Can you shorten that up? And I don't know, Lonnie, what is it now? How soon before they get there now?
To Assemblymember McKee, it reads the same right now. So we do have the outlying precincts, Talkeetna, Trapper Creek, Susitna, I want to say Willow, and then Glacier View, who return them the next day. Generally, we have everything before noon, but it gives them time to return them. But that's the way code reads right now, I do believe it.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that?
I am. And if I can add, we're tracking that to make sure they're coming back, and if afternoon hits and we don't get them, we start making phone calls that has not occurred. We get them.
And then I have another question on that same page. It says if the precinct is a computer count precinct, there won't be a computer count precincts after, if this is passed, right?
If it's in bold and, if it's in bold, or not bold, excuse me, capital and in brackets, that means that part of the code is being deleted.
This means what, I'm sorry?
It's being deleted. If it's capital and in brackets, it means it's being deleted.
Are you looking? Yeah, okay. All right, okay, sorry.
We gotta show what's currently in, what's
I see what
coming
you're saying,
out.
yeah, I wanted just to make sure that that was there. Thanks.
This is Jan. May I speak?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to tell Ron, thank you for this. You got my full support. I voted at the previous meeting to count at the precinct level this year. I wish we could have done that, but I am glad to hear that we'll be doing it next year and doing away with the machine. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Further discussion by any assembly person? Assemblyperson Bowers, go ahead.
So a couple of questions for the clerk. So these machines are expensive, and that's one thing I would love to see us reduce money on. If we could switch to hand count, do we have an estimate of what we would be saving?
Well, you'd definitely be saving the lease. However, I don't know how much, I haven't looked at what we will do sending people out to the precincts, whether we're gonna have the election officials count the ballots, so there will be an additional cost in reference to time. I haven't sat down and figured that out yet, so.
Okay, so the additional expense for this election, we have approved doing a full hand recount to check the machines, an additional estimated cost of $7,000. So it might be somewhere upwards of 7,000, but not.
I would guesstimate that, however, I don't know. I wanna see how we hand count this year to make my decisions on how we're moving forward.
Certainly it's gonna be probably cheaper than 7,000.
Yes,
We would be
if
saving.
that's what you're asking me, yes.
Yeah. And then, so if we are counting at the precincts, and I have talked to many people, including some poll workers, and they've talked about the fact that by the time they are done for the day, they've worked a 12-hour day, it's 10 o'clock at night, you're not at your best. Potentially for counting, if we bring in another group, which I know we've talked about doing, how do we deal, like, if we have inclement weather, or for whatever reason, somebody's car breaks down, and they cannot, the next shift that's gonna do the count, cannot get there, do we have a way to deal with that? Because we're saying it needs to be counted at the precinct.
At this point, we do not have a plan for that. That's something I would have to come up with. However, with regards to how it's written in this ordinance, if I don't get a count done at the precinct, because somebody can't get there, like in Glacier View, because the roads are bad, or there's been an accident, I am now violating code.
Okay, so we have to, like, if we pass this, we're gonna have to work on having some kind of procedure in place.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
make
have some
sure
kind of plan.
that we're not dropping the ball in that way. And then, so these things, these other issues, with the state's voter rolls being inflated, with ballots coming to residences that people no longer live at. What, can the borough affect that in any way? Do you have any power to affect that?
The only thing I can say is the assembly could definitely create a resolution, send it to the legislature in reference to the process of getting people off the rolls that are no longer here. The rolls right now have, of course, because of the PFD, you have people on the rolls that may have never voted. It does take time, and the Division of Elections has to follow the law in reference to how long it takes to take somebody completely off the rolls. Now, generally in speaking, if somebody leaves Alaska, they go and register in Colorado. Colorado is supposed to notify Alaska, because you have that little line, where did you come from? I can't say that that's always done. Because you've got to write down where you were registered before.
Yeah, and those are problems. And then, sort of last question, the system right now, we have paper ballots. So if there's a question about the machine count, we have a record. It's not like a touch screen situation where there's no, it's just electronic.
That is correct. We've only had paper ballots.
I have some comments, but if anybody else has questions.
Any further discussion? Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
One thing, getting rid of the machines, there's $72,000 that we can put towards doing the count. And I know like those outlying areas, Willow, Talkeetna, Glacier View, they've got 24 hours written in their code on the count and stuff, right? Getting back to the borough. Wouldn't that have anything to do with bad weather as well?
That would be true. However, what I was trying to relay earlier, if I can't get a team out there to count, I'm now violating code. We've never had an issue where people haven't been able to return the ballots in time, but these are plans I've got to make, because if, say, election night happens, and it did happen a couple years ago, I don't have a result for Talkeetna, then people are surmising what could be happening. I try to, of course, get the information out to the assembly and the candidates as soon as I know, but those are the kind of things that can happen.
Yes, Assemblyperson McKee?
So before with machines, when voting was done, maybe I'm misremembering, but did somebody call in and say these are the results? That's what I thought. Is there any way, so that we don't have to wait for 24 hours, and before they're actually transported to the borough, is there any way that the people that are counting them out there, is it intended that they will call in and give you their count before they carry them in?
To Assemblymember McKee, my intent, should this legislation pass, is go back to the way we used to do it, and every precinct will call in their results before they bring the supplies back. That way we can get the results out quicker.
Yeah. And I'd like to say something about this. There are some real heroes out in the audience, and some of them aren't here. Brian Endel and CJ Cohn, absolutely, they made it their life work for the past several months. And they took point on this, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate what John Miller said. The resolution that I initially introduced was I needed a guarantee that it was going to pass, and what I wanted was a hand count. We got that. It was always the plan, and Brian can certainly verify this, that we were going to ultimately move to removing the machines, just so you know. So sometimes the tone that we hear out there is that we are against this. You don't have any idea what's going on in the background, and just as I said, CJ and Brian, amazing people, and they had a lot of really good data, but so did all of you. And so I think we're all heading in the right direction. I think that we started out heading that direction, and we're getting there. So thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to approve? Go ahead.
So to the mayor, Assemblymember McKee, I really appreciate that, because you sit up here and people ascribe all sorts of intention to you. And I think everybody's on the same page as far as believing elections are the most integral thing to our democracy. And just to, people give their stories about where they came from. Well, where I came from is my dad's parents were immigrants, and they came here from Ukraine, and he worked his way up and got into the U.S. Air Force and was at the Academy in 1961, 3 years after it happened, and worked his whole military career and raised us to be patriotic Americans and believe in this system, because they saw what happened under the Tsar. And I have a letter from his dad that he wrote to my dad, and he said in that letter, he said, try not to get cynical about government. It will be hard. Don't get cynical about it. And I think, that comes down to participating and being able to talk to each other. So I believe everybody in this room is a patriot and deeply cares, and in some cases is really concerned, rightly, about where our country's going, and the divisiveness and the inability to work through problems and come up with good systems. So sort of back to the issue at hand that we're looking at tonight. There's 20 plus letters in our packet from people who oppose this, who said, we don't want to see the machines gone. In some cases, they're poll workers, they're concerned about the validity of that. We've had people in the room who said, I think rightly so, that a machine can be rigged, but it's not partisan. It's not going to it doesn't care who wins. So when I look at what procedures we have in place, we need to have systems that are secure, that people can trust, and that catch people cheating, because people will try to cheat, whatever way they do. And I certainly support what Assemblymember Bernier said about cost. I mean, $72,000 is a lot, and it seems like the Dominion machines have a lot of bells and whistles, even though the clerk has reminded us that the ones we have don't have those. But it's kind of like, should we just have a basic calculator, or should we have a T1 graphing calculator? You know, we just need something to count. But I would be concerned, and I had proposed this, that we have a special meeting to go over our election procedures after this election, so we get to see how the hand recount does, and we sit down and we're thorough about it, because I would be concerned that if we can change this, pass this tonight, and then we're gonna come back again, and we're gonna change it again, and we're gonna change it again. At a certain point, I would be concerned that people are gonna start to lose faith in us if we're continually changing the system. And just to say that there is no, this is talking about November 2023. So we want to do it right. I don't know what the rush is to not do it right. All these things that you mentioned and more, we can comprehensively work at a meeting and have a more comprehensive discussion about it with the clerk there. So,
No. Audience, please be quiet.
if you allow me, I listened to all this, and I'm trying to say we're all on the same page. I would like the opportunity to be able to sit down with the community when we have the information from the last election, when we can be comprehensive about this and continue this hearing until after that meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to continue this hearing to February 7th. So that would not include the holidays. It would allow us to get the November results. And with the intention of having a special meeting on January 17th to go over all of this in detail.
The discussion is going to be on continuing is it the public hearing or just the discussion?
Continue, I would keep the public hearing open.
Keep the public hearing open on February 7th. Discussion from the assembly. Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'm totally against this. We're here to do business. Let's get it done.
I appreciate Stephanie's idea that this is so important that we've got to get it right. I'm not going to add the however. There's a time to get it right, but there's a right time to get it done. Just get it done and then iron out the details. I think that the most important thing is, I mean, what we wanted, what we've been aiming for all along is to get rid of things. Let's do that. And then if there are any little glitches that we need to work out, and there will be big ones, but the little procedural kinds of things, I imagine we'll be working on that for a while because we're making such a big change here. But I'd like to just get her done tonight.
Further discussion by assembly members on the amendment.
I think that's everything, but I think we can do that and just be comprehensive about it. And again, I'm worried about continuing to tinker and people's confidence in the elections. Because like I said, there's some other people who have differences of opinion, and everybody should be on the same page and feel confident about the procedure we have.
Further discussion by the assembly.
Call the question.
Any objection to calling the question?
Are we voting on the motion or the ordinance?
To call the question, which would mean to stop debate. Okay. Is there any objection to calling the question, which would stop debate? Okay, hearing no objection, then we're ready to vote. So,
And we are now voting on the
we're now
ordinance.
voting on the motion to do the continuation.
Assemblymember Young.
No.
McPhail with Assemblymember Hill and Nowers in support.
So now we're back to the main motion. Is there further discussion on the main motion to pass ordinance 22-119? Is there objection?
I'm sorry. I will object. I just don't think it's good to make decisions in a staggered way, so I'm going to.
So there is objection. So we're ready to vote? Okay.
To do that. Assemblymember McKee, can I get you to vote on the main motion?
We are voting on the main motion.
Yeah,
The main motion to pass.
So a yes says we're gonna pass.
22-119.
Assemblymember Young.
Yes, ma'am.
It passed with Assemblymember Nowers opposed.
So, Assemblymember Young, we had, you had proposed a motion that you wanted to do prior to audience participation, but of course we mixed up the agenda and we heard this ordinance first. Do you want to move that motion now, or do you want to wait till all the other public hearings are held?
Yes, ma'am, if it's all right, I'd like to move it now.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I move to schedule a special meeting for 3 p.m. January 17th to discuss borough elections. My reasoning for this is because I do know after passing this tonight, we have some codes to clean up. I think that's something that we can discuss with staff that day. A special meeting is the appropriate way, in my opinion, so that we can take public comment. I think we're going to do a great job, the team and the staff this year on the election, but there may be some areas that where we see improvement, and especially with people that work the elections and everything. So I want them to be able to speak and come in and have an open conversation about areas that we may be able to improve. So, and again, like I said, clean up codes. So I think this would be the appropriate time. We'll have all the results back. It's right after the holidays, and I don't want to delay it any longer, so that we can get that all cleaned up as soon as possible. Thank you.
Discussion on Assemblyperson Young's motion. We have the special meeting at 3 p.m. on January 17th, 2023.
Just a comment, and as part of that meeting, I would like us to look at reforms at the state level that we could consider pushing for as far as the voter rolls and getting those updated, and also potentially look at if there are other options for machines that are less, would be cheaper and more like a calculator, and don't have all these other bells and whistles, that are simply a calculator.
Further discussion on the motion?
I agree.
Go ahead, sir.
I agree. I definitely think we need to, the first part Stephanie talked about, not the last part, sorry, that, the voter rolls, we absolutely need to clean that. So I do agree with, that we should add that to the agenda that night. I'm comfortable moving forward with just hand counting in the future only, so if we discuss machines that night, that's fine. I don't want it to be on behalf of just this goes. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? Yes, Assemblyperson Young, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I do think it's an important, if we don't have faith in our elections, then, we don't have anything. And so I think a special meeting would definitely be in order. I had prepared, an amendment here for tonight, talking about giving the clerk the ability to run a machine count, verification back, like with the review board, do the hand count at the precincts, and then have the review board run it through some type of counting machine. I do think that second layer of protection is important. It doesn't have to be a Dominion machine. I'd like to see something, something a little more calculator-esque, as Assemblywoman Nowers has said. But if you count large sums of money, you count it out, and you put it in that little machine and push the button and it goes brrr, tunk, tunk, and it counts it too. And I think that that double layer of protection is very important, because if your two counts don't match, then well, you counted again. You know, there's a lot of talk about machines being hackable, and they absolutely are. Machines are hackable, and people are fallible, people are corruptible. So I really think that we should look, when we come to that meeting, we should look at some type of off-brand, whatever, machine that can simply count. So.
Further discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to speak to what Tim just said, because I do agree with that. Just a counter, just something that says, okay, this many people voted and we've got this many ballots. I really like that. And there was a lady out in the audience who was talking about the three-legged stool, the one, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but I thought that was a really good idea. We don't want them to tell how you voted or count anything like that, just like if there were 42 people that came in, there should be 42 ballots. And I don't know how you do that other than I stand with a calculator, I don't care. But I would feel more comfortable with that. It has nothing to do with anything other than counting the number of votes, I'm assuming, yeah.
It's the registry? Okay, we could have the counter? No, you won't be picked up on the mic, so can you discuss it later? And
Sure,
then
sure.
bring it up?
Yeah, but that pretty much conveys my sentiments. I just want to make sure that somebody, somewhere, how we, like 5,000 people voted and only 4,000 ballots show up. So if you had a machine that just did nothing else and say click, 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 that I'd be shocked. How do you feel about that, Ron?
The numbers gotta match,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I think counting right at the precinct after the election is the best way to go.
Oh, I do too. I like that.
I think,
Thank you.
further discussion on the motion?
Just for the special meeting, I just want to clarify that there would be audience participation so that we could get input from the public at that meeting as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
There is always audience participation at any of our meetings. Any further, okay, any objection to the motion? Seeing no objection, then the motion passes. Okay, so we're back to the beginning of the public hearings.
We are. We're on page 3.
Okay, while we go ahead and take a break for 10 minutes until 7:50.
Okay, as you guys all just saw, they just had the vote, and it was 5-1 with one abstaining. Mowers was the dissenting vote, and so was Hale. So the two of them decided not to vote on this particular ordinance. Or Mowers did vote no, and Hale abstained from voting. He was a no anyways. Desperate for elections, I'll tell you that. That's the direction I saw that they're, what they had to do, and based upon their votes and what they had to say. I appreciate you guys all being here today. Do not forget to like and share this. Every single Alaskan needs to hear this. We need to be having this discussion all around Alaska and seeing about making sure we hand count every election within Alaska, especially in places like Anchorage, which where we all have our mixed feelings about the elections going on there. And that would be a great place to be the next one to make sure hand counting is the way it goes. Again, don't forget to like and share and help us grow, help us make it to more of these. Go to Politadick.com and click that support button. All proceeds go right back into doing what we're doing here. The quality broadcast with the microphones that we currently have. We got now wireless setups and everything else. And as long as we don't have some strange RF signal knocking out our microphones, we should be doing phenomenal today. And everything sounds great on my end, I'll tell you what. So, especially when they don't talk into the microphones themselves, how well this one is still picking them up. Appreciate you guys all being here today. And again, remember to like and share if you're on YouTube or Twitter right now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and like
like us on Twitter. That way you'll never miss a notification when we go live, and that would be greatly appreciated. Help us grow. Thank you guys all. Have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow at the MatSu School Board building meeting.
It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. You know, I've been
Anytime. I was going to stay and give testimony on one thing tonight, but I really do got to be up bright and early in the morning, and I wish I could stay. I thought they would give us the second opportunity for public testimony before they shut this down, but everybody's excited that this is passed, starts in 2023. Is when we will get to actually see hand counting take effect is going to be in 2023. And again, the vote passed 5-1 with one abstaining, which was Tim Hell. Mowers was the no vote, and the other 5 Borough Assembly members all voted yes. So again, and the next meeting, September 17th, I believe is what they said, is going to be a big discussion of how they're going to make this all happen. So please like and share. Greatly appreciate it. We'll see you guys all the next time.